All right, Gwen, we have invested into the bicycle industry officially.
Yes. Whoa. Saddles.
We're going to give a little bit of background on this, kind of how we ended up here today, why we did this. I'd say there's been a ton of doom and gloom in the bike industry, some of it real, some of it not, but it made a ton of sense for both you and I to invest in Wove. And I think I'm really excited to probably share with your audience why we did that, how we did that, and kind of where it goes from here. So we'll give a good look under the hood on that decision-making process. How does that sound?
Great.
So a little bit different video than, normally you give some race recaps, you give some training, but this one, the last time you and I sat down and did a video like this, I think we talked about
our marriage.
It was about our marriage and how we make that work, and this, I think, is really another step forward, because this took a ton of communicating on you and I, and ultimately the owner, Nick at Wove, but we got it done, and I think we're both, all three of us,
Very
are super,
excited.
super excited about this. So I think for me, this starts with, give us a little bit of background on your saddle usage and your saddle history.
Okay, so I was using a saddle. When was it discontinued?
I mean, like
2013?
2014, yeah.
So in 2013, the saddle that I had been using was going to be discontinued.
It's okay, you could say the brand.
It was Specialized. I don't even know what it's called though.
It was a Specialized Aura.
And so at that time we stockpiled. We basically were just give us every single one of these saddles that you have. And we probably had, 20 or more?
At one time, yes.
So we got basically all the saddles that were left of this saddle. And it's the only one I used. I came back to triathlon, we put it on my bike, and I was just I'm just not happy with this. It's okay, but also I think we were running down, our inventory was down to maybe 2. What was our?
We didn't have many left.
And so I started to explore different saddles. And I mean, the joke that I always tell is Stanley, I don't know why, but the saddles for some reason always ended up on our dining table. And Stanley's like, why are all these bike seats on our table, Mom? What's going on? And I'm like, well, I can't find anything that works. And I had a bike fit, he gave me a saddle and he's like, this one will work. And I was like, I don't think, I'm not comfortable. It's not working. And he was like, well, just give it time. And then I tried different saddles. And then I went back to the one the bike fitter said. And I was literally leaving for rides crying. I was like, I don't want to ride because I'm in so much pain. And so we went, how many different saddles did we buy? 20?
At least. Yeah, it was all kinds of.
It was expensive. I bought one that, what was that one? It had 3 inches of cushion.
You had bought a Shimano, it was a pro saddle that was humongous. And you were like, I just need a lot of padding. And I remember we were at a canyon event with Lionel, and you guys, after the event was over, but you guys had bonded over just you're like, I can't. You guys both had the same issues with saddles, and Lionel told a story. He goes, I got so desperate once, I went and bought a gel pad at the hardware store. And Gwen was like, did that work? Because she's like, I would do that too. And so, this was just something where you're like, every single saddle I have, it's not that you didn't like it, it was that you almost had disdain for it.
Yes.
I mean, it was.
Well, it's not comfortable. And I kept saying, this must be comfortable. And Pat, you kept saying, everyone that rides a bike deals with saddle pain. You just said it's the part of riding a bike. And I think that's why I would cry when I got on my bike, because I was just like, this can't be. There can't be this many professional cyclists that feel like this every time they get on a bike. So anyway, then you suggested I try this saddle. Yep. And I remember you were very kind of weird about it. You didn't really let me even meet Nick.
I didn't want to say anything about it.
You just kind of slid it in, and I remember it ended up on the kitchen table, and I was like, I picked it up, and I was like, I'm gonna like this saddle.
So we ended up, I tried to say very little things about it, but I have a client that's uses the saddle, sponsored by Wove. I knew that it was the athlete adoption, especially in triathlon this year, it's been like a tidal wave. So you've got Christian Blumenfeld, Lucy Charles, Magnus Ditlev. You've got Ruth Winder, who's a World Tour
Here.
pro, uses it, also based locally, using it. This is a saddle that all of a sudden I saw a bunch of people using, and it wasn't necessarily like, saddles are something that you are not, no matter what a brand is willing to pay you, like, you are not willing to compromise in 9.9 times out of 10, because this is just such a contact point that if it doesn't work, it is excruciatingly, it's just really painful and
Yes.
uncomfortable. Sam Long was using it, Rudy Von Berg. I mean, the list just goes on and on. So I was like, something's going on. And it was cool and very interesting to me, because there's been this narrative around saddles that men need men's saddles,
Yes.
women need women's saddles. And every single, didn't matter if they were male or female, they were using the same saddle. And everyone seemed really happy, and there was a lot of churn and noise about it. So I think I'll have to go back and look at it was in March, was the very first time you rode this saddle. And we had gotten 5 minutes down the road,
Not even.
and Gwen looked at me and said, because I didn't want to say anything about this. Gwen looked at me and said, "This is the very first time I've ridden without pain."
Yeah, ever.
And I was like, okay, I'm just going to hold that. I'm not going to say anything. And then we finished our ride, and you were like, and I just said, "Hey, how?" And you're just like, "That was unbelievable." She goes, "This is just completely
Changed my life.
changed my life." And so that was, I had texted Nick, the owner, afterwards, and I just said, "Hey, Gwen had this experience with this saddle. I've swapped out 20 saddles on her bikes in the last couple of years. Are you guys taking on any investment? Because this is something that I've seen a pathway here that is," let's wave bye to our neighbor. I've seen something here that I haven't seen before. One, I'd seen the brand stuff going on, and then two, that experience that you had just kind of blew me away. And so I think that ultimately led us to investing in the company, and it was at a time, the timing was right, and it's allowing them to do some things now that, that really kind of sped up a few of the bottlenecks that they were having. So
Yeah, I don't know if we can talk about this, but I think, one of the issues was they just Wolf couldn't keep up with the demand. And so I remember when I was like, "This is the saddle, I need more," Pat's like, "Well, it's going to take a little while." I'm like, "What do you mean it's going to take a little while?" So, yeah, I mean, I think that as well was another reason I was excited to invest in them, because I'm like, there is this big need, and they just, yeah, I wanted more made.
Yep. Yeah. And so I think now it's been a few months on, again, you're seeing more and more of these pop up on bikes. And so I think I'm really excited to invest in a business, especially in the bike industry, one that, I'm very closely tied to, both for my business and then just for my lifestyle. Same for Gwen. You don't get the opportunity to invest in these businesses typically. One, either it's hard to get in early enough, or they're not looking for the financing, or simply we don't have enough money. There were a bunch of things here that lined up, and I feel like we got really lucky on.
Do you want to touch just a tiny bit quickly on just the bike industry and your thoughts on it right now?
Yeah, look, I mean, the bike industry is in a very challenging place right now. It's coming off of the COVID boom, and being able to forecast correctly or effectively has been really challenging. To refigure that out and reformulate that moving forward isn't something that, I'm certain that they've gotten right yet. So that's been a big, probably sidestep from where they had after the COVID boom. The uncertainty on where tariffs will land and where these products are built and made, that's
Yep.
been a real big problem. So it's been a very challenging time, whether it's from sports marketing or forecasting of, where things actually are and where they're going. It's been.
But you still believe in the bike industry, and you still think it's,
Of
yeah.
course, yeah, of course. And I think at the end of the day, look, this is a $600 bike seat. This is not something that is the most approachable for price point. However, for the enthusiasts, this is something that they don't want to have to make a concession on, right?
Yep.
and this is such an important contact point. I would say, like, look.
And this is very light and aero, correct? I mean, I don't care about those things. I just want to be comfortable, but isn't
We're
that...
sitting on it, so aero doesn't matter. But the biggest thing here is, yes, for the weight weenies, this thing is really light. For me, I don't care what this weighs. The fact that I can sit on it, and it was...
Well, you've changed your position. And you, I mean...
Yes, I don't want to go too dorky, but what this allowed you and I to do, especially you, because you always kind of had a little bit of a hunchback.
Yep.
You've been actually able to roll your hips forward now, and you're able to get into a much more aerodynamic position because of that. You and I each now have 140 stems on our bikes because we're able to really lean out and we're not guarding any of our soft tissue like we were guarding in the past.
Yep.
So that we'll speak to in a later video, but these are the real reasons why I think that this has been so beneficial. It was funny, we made our investment, I hadn't even used the saddle. Then finally one came available and I put it on my bike, and I had the same, really revelation that you did, where I was just like, holy smokes, I am so comfortable right now. This has completely changed. I had to put a longer stem on my bike because I could actually roll my hips forward and reach out.
Yep.
So look, I think in closing, we're super excited to partner with these guys. I think that this is a dynamite product, and you don't just have to believe it from me. You can see from the adoption of what the athletes are doing. I'm really excited for our two businesses separately to make this investment back into the industry. You and I have been huge benefactors of the industry for people investing in, whether they're sponsoring you or sponsoring the athletes that I support. But my hope is that this demonstrates to the industry, like, hey, these guys are doing something correct, because we were both willing to put our own money in because we believed in it that much, right?
Yep.
And I think that, to me, is like the biggest testimonial that you could ask for. So will this seat work for everybody? No. Do I believe that most people would love this saddle? Absolutely. So I'm super excited for what's to come for the company, and I just wanted to provide a little bit of background on how we ended up here. If you would like to purchase a saddle, please visit wovebike.com or ask your local bike shop. This would be a great way to test one out. If you're in the Boulder area, you can contact me directly, and I'll try and help you out for a test ride on your own. I'll do that out of the kindness of my heart. So yeah, super excited for what these guys have in the works. Keep an eye on them. They're up to a bunch of really cool stuff, and go cheer on all their athletes that they're supporting.